We'll stop here at Mima's Kitchen for lunch, catch a little bite to eat, and then get on down the road.
A little barbacoa taco. Yeah, it doesn't probably look that good because of the sauce in it, but.
I got chorizo and egg, and then my favorite, huevos rancheros.
Now that we got our grub on, we're going to be headed to Desertdoor Distillery. You ready, Ruthie?
Desertdoor Distillery.
We're going to try this place out, see what they got, man. It's kind of a new location. I've definitely never heard of it, but kind of just, I go to Google Maps and areas that I want to be around or visit. I just kind of zoom in on see what's there.
Good afternoon.
Hey man, how's it going?
12 o'clock tour. It's $10 per person. You get a shot of our straight liquor, a taste of our nectar, which is our liquor before it's even made, and they take you around the entire facility, and it's really, really fun. Or I could just spiel out the whole story and we can start drinking. Today our bartender's choice is a Midnight in Marfa.
Pay you for the tour?
Mm-hmm.
Bang. You said it starts at 12, huh?
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk around a little bit. Is that...
Yeah, definitely.
So the word Sotol refers to both the spirit and the plant, as you may have gathered. So that is our plant right there. So the plant and the spirit are both indigenous to the northern Chihuahuan Desert. So that includes parts of Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and northern Mexico. About 800 years ago, the indigenous people started to ferment it into a beer-like beverage. Sotol is not an agave spirit. It's its own standalone category. So when people ask, what is it? It's Sotol. That's what it is. It's Sotol.
Okay.
So this over here is our 36,000 gallon rainwater collection tank. So all distilleries are required by law to have an emergency water source, but we also use it for cleaning and for the cooling phase of our distillation. We get in 1 to 2 harvests a week of the Sotol hearts. We get in between 16 to 24,000 pounds of the hearts. They're usually full of critters like scorpions and centipedes. So they get offloaded from these trailers and then they go into these steamer baskets. Sotol is made in much the same way as mezcal. Tequila, where the hearts are actually roasted in an earthen pit. So what you see behind you is an autoclave. That's effectively a giant steamer or pressure cooker. And then it's like Texas barbecue. You cook it low and slow. So it takes all day to steam those hearts. Once they're cooked, we load them into here. This is called a corkscrew extractor. It's not a juicer. What it does is it extracts the nectar or juice from the fiber or pulp, which is what you see outside on those trailers. Now with the nectar, it's not known if this is something that was traditionally consumed by the indigenous peoples, but we like to give our visitors a taste of it because it really helps you see what the raw, unfermented nectar tastes like. So what we do, once we've got the nectar and the processed water, we transfer it to these 1,000-gallon fermentation tanks, which you can see in action here. We add commercial distiller's yeast, and that yeast will begin to work on converting the sugars into alcohol. It's starting to ferment. So the purpose of the still is your heat source comes from below. In this case, it's steam injected. So what we're doing is we're taking the entire contents of that 1,000-gallon fermentation tank and it's going into this pot still here. As it heats, alcohol evaporates at a lower temperature than water, so about 170 degrees. So as it evaporates, it's becoming vapor, and that vapor is then going to rise up to the top, so it's going to go up that column there. We are operating a hybrid still. We're going to do our first distillation here because it can hold all the volume of one tank. And then that vapor basically goes up, drips down here, so it's reverting to a liquid, if that makes sense, that condensation. And then the column still performs our subsequent distillations. We distill it 7 times. Different compounds appear in distillate depending on the temperature. So as it heats, it's getting hotter. And those compounds will appear, and it draws off things that we don't want, things like ethanol or acetone, otherwise known as nail polish remover. So it's drawing off all these volatile compounds on each of those little plates or trays. So that is why we use a column still. It helps you refine and nuance the flavor of the spirit. So I can get more into that. That's kind of the long and short of it. It's just designed to help you really dial in the flavor. So it takes about 13 hours to go through those 7 distillations. This is called a parrot. What the parrot does is it tells you the alcohol proof. So when our Sotol comes off the still, it's between 130 and 190 proof. So what distillers do is they proof down their spirits. So if you drink with your whiskey with a few drops of water in it, that's proofing it down. You're just lowering the alcohol content. We're gonna run it into here. This is called a tote. We're gonna add distilled water and we're gonna bring it down to 80 proof, which is what we bottle at. So before you knock this back in a shot, no judgment, I really recommend taking a few sips, letting it go to the back of your palate so that you can really fully taste the different flavors. Stoked to do that here. So we use pepitas, always historically been bottled in ceramic, and that is a tradition that we wanted to hang into. So we work with a ceramic house in Mexico and have the bottles made. That's the great thing about Sotol is it just does not leave this burn. We're not the only one to have ever existed in Texas. There was one in El Paso in the 50s, but we are the only one now. They took Judd's wife's pressure cooker right there on that little pedestal, and they steamed the hearts in there, and then they used the wood chipper to break down the steamed hearts and juice it. I'm so not making this up. This is the actual equipment.
Pretty archaic
And then
compared to everything else.
right? And then they fermented it in Ryan's bathtub. So once they felt they knew what they were doing, they invested in this little 15-gallon column still. And the first time they used it, they thought they were probably going to blow themselves up, so they took it out to the ranch. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. We're leaving the Desertdoor and pretty good Sotol. So kind of glad that we got to taste it. Right, Brittany?
Yes, we got to taste it. It wasn't scary either.
All right, so now that we've visited Desertdoor, Texas Sotol, we're going to head over to Treaty Oak, up the road a little bit, just north of Dripping Springs. But now that you saw this place, man, it's pretty cool. So like I said, if you want to come out here and take a little tour, they'll hook you up. So we'll see you at Treaty Oak.
Let me say desert tree.
Desert Tree.